You're listening to Tehachapi with Key Budge, Corey Costello, Greg Garrett, and Ashley Whitmore.
It's Tehachapi time. Key Budge, Corey Costello today. Corey, how are you?
I'm doing very well.
Today is going to be a fun show. We didn't do it last year for some reason, but 2 years ago, we had our guests in studio, Juliana Crisali Cronky. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Pat Duty, welcome back.
Thank you.
And I say welcome back because we made you get on the show. You were, when we talked to you both from the Loop newspaper and today's topic, Tehachapi Experience magazine, or Experience Tehachapi magazine, that last time we were going through the interview and we could hear Pat in the background talking. We said, get Pat on. We want to talk to her. And so today we forced you to come in studio. So thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
I'm very fortunate I get to work with you on a regular basis as you cover things here in the city of Tehachapi, and I try and get you the information as quickly as I can so you can run to print with it.
Yeah, you guys have been really great. I just know both you and Maya are right there if I need you. So.
All right, we'll make sure Greg hears that.
Yes.
Well, today we want to talk about our Experience Tehachapi magazine. It was just recently released, and I know this is a work that you guys, it takes like 12 months of prep to get started on this, doesn't it?
Just about. I will say we usually start in January of the year it will be released, but we're ahead because I already have a theme picked out for next year, and I already have some stories assigned, so it's going to come out a little earlier probably and maybe be even bigger. It'll be great.
Okay, so that's next year's edition.
Yeah.
And we haven't even talked about this year's edition that's out.
Claudia gave me about a month
okay.
break, and now I'm back in it, but I like it that way. So
it's tough to work for, it sounds like.
She is cracking the whip.
She's great.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the 2023 release, the 2023/24 magazine that just came out here early fall.
Yep.
And what do we have inside the covers?
So for the theme this year, I had a very wise journalism professor tell me, you need to have a face on every page if you want people to read your stories. So I wanted as many faces or stories from the community within these pages as possible. So the theme is Tehachapi, tell us your story, where we had a lot of people write in and tell us, what they love about the community or what happened when they first moved here, also including photos of, their family or any kind of experience here that made them feel at home, which I think is great because this is now something that they can show off to their friends or they can send to their family across the country and just kind of get the Tehachapi name out there a little bit more.
Now, did you find that you would get people participating that were, obviously we look to some of our long residents, the old timers, if you will, of the community, but we've had so many new people move in from various parts of the country, definitely from all over California, but also across the nation have picked Tehachapi to call home.
Right.
Did you get input from some of those new arrivals?
We did. Yeah, we had a few. We had a few who just gave us little, snippets of their life and why they love Tehachapi. One of them is, the headline is something like, why I love Tehachapi. And she just moved here not too long ago with her husband and purchased an incredible amount of land that they just now want to keep preserved and beautiful and, add their little mark in the community. So from Del Troy, who's a legend here in the city, to these newcomers, we have stories from everyone. And that's kind of why I like the theme so much is whether we've been here a day or we've been here all our lives, we all have a Tehachapi story. So
does it make you officially old when you had the black and white, like Tehachapi in black and white? Two of the photos were people I knew that I grew up with. One was Amy, who was at her grandfather's memorial in the park, placing flowers for a Veterans Day celebration, and then the high school kids skateboarding on what's now the middle school campus. And I'm like, oh yeah, they're black and white. I said, oh yeah, I know those people.
Not old, just cultured with
Classic.
Tehachapi. Classic Tehachapi.
Yes.
That's a good thing to be.
Yeah.
Now, did you find, as you've had some of the new arrivals versus our veteran community, our old timers, did you see, were the differences in the stories they kind of told or that they shared, were there similarities? Did you see like a crossover? Like you didn't have to be here a long time to experience the same thing that these new people, experienced?
Yeah. There was a theme. There was the beauty of Tehachapi, which is still here. We may have more buildings, but we keep the natural beauty here all the time, and I think that helps. And the people. they fell in love with the scenery, and then, after 5 people waved at them on the street, 5 strangers gave them a wave, they realized this was home. I don't think that's changed since the beginning.
It's cool to tell that there's a lot of stuff in this particular edition about history of things, like the museum, the high school as well. And I think it's cool that for people that maybe, like, for example, the museum, they see what is now the Chamber of Commerce office. Well, that was
Right.
the originally Tehachapi Museum. And so to see that, and let them realize that used to be the museum site and that sort of thing. So it's kind of cool that they get a chance to kind of see the before and after style of what things used to be.
Right. Old photos are my favorite thing in the world. So, like last year's edition, we did the then and now really heavy, so we could see what it looked like long ago and see what it looks like today. And I love that. And I think I'm trying to carry that through every magazine as much as I can, because it really does tell the Tehachapi story. But again, getting as many new voices in this one as I could felt important. We still have some of our contributors and writers who have done this with us for a very long time, but those new voices were really special because they tell our story in the same way we do. They just have a different tone, and I love that.
It's awesome.
Pat, how about for you? What about this edition really speaks to you?
Well, it was kind of interesting for me because I do the Hilltop Welcoming Service for new people, and there was a lot of that in this as well. Some of the stories that I've got from new residents and so forth would ring true, and some of the people who sent the stories in. It was pretty amazing, actually.
And, it doesn't matter how long you were here. And my family's been here for years and decades, but you still always learn something. So, for example, my favorite story in this edition is John Hammond's story about the high school. And obviously I knew where, what is now Saracoso / Tehachapi Education Center was the original high school building when they actually built one. And then I went to junior high school there when it was Jacobson Junior High.
Me too.
Yeah. And so, and it's great. You go in there and there's still some of the, it's still pretty historic inside. But I didn't realize a lot of the other history before the high school building was built. John was talking about different schoolhouse sites. And then, he points out that there was a home on Curry that for a couple years was used as high school classes. And then I also didn't realize that anybody after middle school or junior high school at the time that wanted to go to high school had to go to what is now BHS. It used to be Bakersfield Union High School. They had to go to BHS, and they would stay down there all week long. Monday through Thursday, they would stay in dorms, and then they would take the train back on Friday and spend the weekend with their family and go back again on Monday for classes. So it was a boarding school effectively for Tehachapi kids. And I can't remember that would have been the 20s. In the 20s, being 13, 14 years old, going to Bakersfield, which was, it was way larger than we were then, and it is still now. But imagine that kind of culture shock, and living on your own away from your family. Now, granted, fewer kids went to high school during those days, but then before we finally got our own building in 1930, so it was pretty cool to understand that little tidbit of history. I had no idea.
I didn't either. And you know what? That's the great thing about John. I did assign him stories. He sent those to me. But this one randomly, I can't take credit, because he randomly sent this and said, hey, if you need another story, I wrote
That's
this
cool.
about the high school. And I wasn't planning on it and didn't actually have room, but it was such a good story. And it kind of fit in with just, telling the story of the community and the people who have come through here and come back. And
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was really happy with that one. And he always gives us little gems like that, which is nice.
Awesome.
Whenever I've seen John anywhere, wherever we're at, John will, whatever the topic is, he will be able to, he recalls things like no one I have
It's
ever
unreal. It is
been
unreal.
around.
He's the Google of Tehachapi.
He
I think I
is.
said that last time
Yeah,
too, but
we hammered
he's
it.
still we hammered it. Yeah, he's still that.
And when we get that experience and you sit back and you're kind of speechless because you're learning, and he has the smallest of details that he is able to recall. And, I guess that maybe that's part of his writing, the journalism in him, is to ask for these different details. And he paints that picture when he tells the story. So he writes an incredible story, but if you get him to speak in a public speaking setting too, wow.
Now, if you're interested, to piggyback on that one, since 1930 was the first high school year, 1930 also happened to be the first football year for Tehachapi in 1930. So I remember many years ago when I was in high school, I actually wrote a story about the first THS football team. Actually, I have it framed on my wall because I had to go to the museum. I had to thumb through old Tomahawk yearbooks, get pictures, get information. And so anyway, we could do a little history of short early days of Tehachapi football if you'd like. Just saying,
I'm already
throwing it out
seeing
there.
the spread in next year's magazine, which
Yeah.
should be part of it.
too.
That would be great.
We've got great people in the community that have done so much research over the years, Tom Shea being one of them, and a couple others that actually have a website that dedicated just to football history in Tehachapi
wow,
with
that's
pictures
great.
from 1930 on. And, first head coach was Gus Offerman. He was there for 3 years. He won like 2 games because, we were a very, very, very tiny school at the time. So, that'd be kind of a cool thing because it's so ingrained in the history, but people don't realize the very beginnings and how, the first team showed up and about 2 kids out of the 8 on the team or 10 ever played football before because it was, we never had a team and it was kind of unorganized at the time. So pretty cool.
You have a deadline of January 12th. I'll need at least 3 photos.
Well, most
but
of it's
more is
written.
better.
Most of it's already
That's
written.
great.
I wrote it like 20 something years ago. I'll just update a little bit, refresh it, and we'll be good to go.
Sounds good.
You could do a then and now version. You could reprint the original and
Yeah,
then
there
you
you
could
go.
update it. So what you've learned since then.
No, we had a picture of the original team and everything. And actually, one of them was one of the families that one of the Ureas was on that squad.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
Oh, that's amazing.
Right. It was
Please,
one of the,
I was teasing a little bit, but January.
Yes.
Please send it to
Yeah.
me. That would be great.
And folks also might not know the first team were the Tehachapi Redskins. That was our initial name for the first few years. Switched to Indians for a while, and then everybody at the time though had Indians. Mojave had Indians. Maricopa had and still has Indians as their nickname, and the students in the 40s were like, everyone's got this. Let's do something different but similar. And then they voted and selected Warriors at the time. So there you go.
So now you can Costello it.
Yes. Awesome.
I'm only on the football side of John's knowledge. John has got everything. Me, it's like, you got any football questions? Don't ask me about the flora or fauna. I have no idea, but can't do it all like he does.
All right, so let's dive into Experience Tehachapi here, 2023/24 release. What else as we turn the pages?
Man, there's so many great things. I mean, we have this cool feature called Through the Lens, which I really like, which I always want to put in more photos whenever I can in a magazine, and ideally would have liked to do even more than we did. But Through the Lens is a little tiny feature had been running in The Tale, which is a art and entertainment page in the Loop newspaper, where it's just I found cool photos on Facebook from Tehachapi pages and asked if we could publish them in the paper. I kind of did the same with this. I'm on Tehachapi Scenes on Facebook, and people post amazing, amazing photos. And so I connected with them, and as many as I could get in, I got their permission and reprinted them. So these are not from us. These are from the community. These are their sites, the things that they experience every day. And I love that. Photos are always special to me, but going through the magazine, there's so many cool little features this time that we haven't had before, like the creation of the community garden. We have photos when it first started and what it looks like now and what they're looking to expand upon. And Pat and John kind of are the stars of this this magazine, but Pat has some of our most important stories, which I hope you'll chat about. But the wine industry and Art 2023 and the Norbertines, all of those are features that we've had before, but she's brilliant and she makes these new every time. So,
well, there's always new stuff every year,
right?
Too. It's the wine industry is expanding. This year we added beer. Our beer mile +1 that's out in Old Town. But it was really fun. I enjoy doing it, and I learn a lot in the process. So
You know what I found especially when we have friends in Bakersfield, and we talk to them, and they come up, and then we say, "Oh, we'll stop by a winery." And they're like, "Oh, that's right, you have a winery." I go, winery? No, negative. We have a wine industry. And then we'll take them to 2 or 3, and they're just like, with the entertainment, the food selections, they are blown away. And they're like, why do I go to Paso Robles for this? I don't need to.
Right.
This is closer, and they have a much more enjoyable time. And then each of our wineries and is such a different vibe. So it's not like you go to one and it's the same at the next one.
And the same wines from each winery are different because the soil's different from one, whether it's like Tehachapi Wine and Cattle that is on a hillside or on the valley floor. And I've learned that affects like the same varietal in two different places.
And the temperature can be a little bit different too. Like Paso
Absolutely.
Robles, for example, it's always hot in the summer. Just the temperature's the same at every winery.
Hot.
It's just warm. But here, just because one winery might be slightly more elevated, sits lower, whatever, that changes the weather as well, which has an impact on the crops and that sort of thing. So, even those little things that we have, those little microclimates impact the wine taste.
Right. And even though we're at 4,000 feet, we have the heat from Bakersfield and Mojave that can keep us tempered in the wintertime. And we've got the rays of the sun that affect the grapes all year long. So,
And something I learned from Cliff Meredith, with the wind and the way he set up the rows so that way that he could capitalize on the wind coming through to take moisture off the grapes so he didn't experience mold and things.
Yeah.
Just the science that's involved. I continue every time I speak with one of the owners of one of our tasting rooms or vineyards, I learn even more.
Yeah.
And I was not a science guy going in school, but I keep grabbing the science. It's amazing.
It makes you want to be a science person if you
Yeah.
can do that with it,
Yeah,
right?
they should teach science that way in high school. Teach it as like one day you can grow up to brew wine and beer, and kids would be like,
Oh, I'm in.
I'm in. I mean, teach me. They would pay attention to chemistry in a heartbeat.
That's right.
As opposed to just trying to muddle through a textbook. I'm telling you right now.
So with what was the difference between what you found this year and you explored with our wine industry versus compared to what you did previously?
well, I've really got a chance to talk to Cliff, and he grows totally different than anybody else. He tries to keep everything as natural as possible. He walks the vineyard every day. He loves having the bugs, the snakes, the whole thing going, and it's very much more organic than many of them, and he's very much hands-on, even though his wine is barreled elsewhere, but he's there every week and testing. He does all the testing himself, so it's almost like he's making his own, and it's really interesting. It's a whole different process than what I was used to with everyone else. So.
And that's Cliff Meredith's Stray Leaves. And Cliff has his vineyard off of Highline. He has his tasting room in downtown Tehachapi, the old First Interstate building. And Corey, let's kind of sidestep. What do you think that's meant to have opening up the tasting room downtown, for our downtown economy?
Well, it means more time that Pat's there drinking wine, talking to Cliff, that's for sure. 1 block away from the Loop office.
That's where you've been. That's why I couldn't
She's like,
find
I'm on
you.
assignment.
It's my Friday afternoon.
Yes. Yeah, you're on assignment every day. But yeah, no, I think that's, first of all, you go back to the very beginning, the blighting effect, number one. That building sat vacant for a very long time, old kind of defunct sign on the corner. It needed to go. It was the first thing Cliff cut down before the long process of building the tasting room was getting rid of the sign, which was welcomed. And then, so you have that blighting effect. So you're bringing life to the corner. So really, you look at all four corners of Green and F right now, and across the street for a while, you had a closed St. Vincent de Paul, former thrift store, former grocery store, and that became the Village Collective. So that whole area, the whole corner is now a jewel. And then just the impact of being able to go to either a live theater production at BK or a movie at Hitching Post, a dinner at one of the downtown restaurants, park once, walk 3 different things, have a glass of wine, whatever it is. That's kind of what the true vision for downtowns should be, where you don't have to drive around to every single business you want to do something. You can actually park once and go enjoy your evening. So that's been a big part, but it's also helped the farmers market. I mean, people come to the farmers market and then they go have a glass of wine and sit on the patio, or special events, that sort of thing. It's one more spot for just to hang out and have the casual conversations too, and a lot of this stuff turns into stories in magazines like this. So that's what's been very important about that impact to downtown specifically.
And Pat, so with the Loop focused right there on Green Street next to the library, your kitty corner, 2 Stray Leaves, what was that like? Because for years and years, you had to look at that old vacant First Interstate building and then the transformation. We talk about, Juliana, with the then and now.
Right.
I mean, what a then and now that is, as you mentioned, Corey, on all corners of Green and F. But, you show up to work every day and now I was mentioning to someone, I've never seen the amount of parking spaces used on Green that we have today.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right.
That's, you used to be a handful. You could count, 6, 7 between Tehachapi Boulevard up to E. Now that's not the case. It's 75% full at all times, during business hours. So
I know, even coming to work, if I move my car after anytime midday, I have to find another place to park when I come back because there's no space.
So as the veteran reporter you don't have reserved parking?
We don't. I will tell you, a secret in the fact that we finally got a cone.
I was going to say that. A cone will do the trick. Yeah.
And if I'm only going to be gone a few minutes, we'll put it in a spot.
Okay. No. We didn't hear that.
She snaked one of those temporary no parking signs in the farmer's market.
Yeah.
I knew we were missing one.
Duty.
Let's talk Railroad real quick because you did a story with Mark McGowan, who retired in the railroad, Bakersfield resident, but he's up here all the time because of his docent work at the Depot Museum. Also, it featured the Stokoe collection, which the city purchased years ago. Actually, when they purchased it and then needed to keep it, they paid rent on a house on E Street for a long time, or F Street for a long time, in order to keep it there, and just paid someone to keep it in the backyard, and then eventually moved to the rail depot when the time was right.
Interesting. After you and I talked about it, I talked to some of the people from Friends at the Depot, and they didn't even know that.
Yeah.
What the information I got from
Yeah,
you.
my brother lived next door, and it was his mother-in-law at the time. It was her house, and she got rent money from the city to store it, and she just kept it in the backyard because that's where it was at. And so I remember as a kid, it was in his backyard when he lived in that home, and then she bought it, and they said, just, we'll take the collection, just leave it there, and we'll pay you. And so she got some rent money for several years until actually it was time to move it over. And so now every once in a while they do little presentations and explain the signaling and all that
They're
stuff.
hoping they can do this more regularly. There's been talk about maybe doing it as part of a First Friday sometime.
Yeah.
So because they're old signals and they're hard to see during the day, but it would be really cool to see them at night, I think.
I think we should light them up for the tree lighting. I'm just saying.
That'd be
There
pretty
you
cool.
go.
Cool idea.
A lot of movement over there.
Yeah, that'd be
would
awesome.
I will talk to a couple of people about that.
That knows somebody.
She has connections everywhere.
Love that. Okay, so let's turn a couple more pages. What do we land on?
That one. Oh, I did want to mention. I'm a little biased here, but
Juliana's actually thumbing through the pages as I asked her to.
My mother wrote a story.
All right.
So we're keeping this whole Crisali newspaper family thing going. But she helps us with the tale, the Art and Entertainment Guide, which used to be part of the Tehachapi News. Okay. It was its own section. Claudia loved the idea, and she wanted to bring it back in some form. So my mom wrote about the different authors that we have in Tehachapi, and it is the tiniest sampling because there are a lot of authors here. We have a creative crew in this community. And, she highlighted some of them that we had heard about, and we did some research and, asked the whole office to chip in with any names that they knew. But we really only scratched the surface. And I would like to say at this point, any author who has written something here, please reach out to us because we want to read your book and we want to promote that in the tale too. But I love the way she pulled this together, and just, again, talking about John Hammond growing up as a boy, writing for the Tehachapi News, and all the different people who have come in since who just have created beautiful stories, whether they're inspired by Tehachapi or not. These are the voices of our people here, and I love that we have a place that they all sit now.
Yeah, we found that, Corey. I mean, we've interviewed 4 or 5 local authors.
Yeah, one of the books you talk about was The Darker the Gray, Gary Perlin's book, and we talked to him, I think, original, kind of one of the first episodes of the podcast, or sometime in 2020. I read the book, and it's not my genre, but I know Gary. I grew up with Gary, and so I wanted to read his book. And I was, like I said, it's not my thing, but it was so well written.
Yeah.
I mean, vivid. I mean, it's very sci-fi and kind of dark, and it's so vivid. He did such a great job with the imagery. It's like, man, this is amazing, you
Yeah.
know? And then when you hear the backstory about the book, I mean, some of the stuff came to him in dreams or he experienced it and he made it into this big story that was pretty fascinating to be able to pull it off.
Yeah, he's great, and he's kept in contact with us. We did a review of one of his books 2 years ago, I think, and we actually, this is something I could promote too, if that's all right.
Yeah.
But we have a serial going in the Tale right now. It published, the first part published last week, but a serial is when you write a tiny little short story and you let other authors build on it. We did that once before, and Gary actually was one of the authors who came in and sent us some stuff. So check out the last issue of The Loop and read the story and see if you would like to build on it, because it's a kind of cool story. It's kind of creepy for our Halloween time right now, and we're looking for more voices in the community to kind of help us out.
I'm going to guess Gary turned it creepy because he's that kind of writer.
He did turn our last one creepy for sure.
No, it's brilliant, but he's got, that's his twist for sure.
He has a talent.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very cool. There was obviously other things too that you guys feature. I'm kind of curious it seems like every year they're in the magazine, but every year there's a little something new. Like what's new with the Norbertines and what's happening with their operation?
Well, the Norbertines it took them years to get their cheese licensed with Kern County. And last year was the first year that they were able to sell it publicly. And it was so good. But they didn't rest on their laurels. They developed 2 new flavors that were equally good. Their chipotle is, well, Sister
Spicy?
Mary. Sister Mary Norbert says, I don't think it's that spicy. However, it is. And the other one was the Italian, like a pesto.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's really good
Oh,
too.
nice.
So is that available in their gift shop? When you
It
go?
is available in their gift shop anytime you want to run
What are
up
kind
there.
of their hours of operation, when they're sort of there, that sort of thing?
Most daylight hours. I have not found a time when they're not.
Okay.
Well, of course, I haven't shown up in the middle of the night or anything. But I did send a young man from the visitor center up there on a Sunday afternoon and told him I didn't know whether they would be there, but not only were they there, but he stayed for prayers. He bought cheese. They invited him back. I think he's going to end up going and cutting some lawn stuff for them and stuff. So you just
That's a leap of faith, though, too. When you go to the visitor center from out of town and someone tells you, just keep driving up this road into the mountains, and eventually you'll find, this group of working nuns. Just keep going. You can't miss it. I mean, that's basically it. The road's going to end, and you'll see it.
Well, not only that, but they are starting. They're breeding dogs that will become service dogs,
Oh, nice.
and the golden retrievers are just adorable, and they're kind of expensive. But the thing I think is so cool is they teach the puppies to pray before they eat. And we've used a picture of them. They sit around this little bowl of water and food, and they sit there, and when the sister says, "Amen," they dive in.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah. Cheese making, dog training, praying dog training, nuns in Tehachapi. It's wonderful.
For a cloistered order, they're very accessible,
Yeah.
I find.
I really want to go up there and just for their prayer time. I've heard it's pretty awesome to experience that.
They're canonesses, which means that they sing
Right.
the liturgy at every service. So, and it's really amazing to listen to.
Cool.
Yeah, I've been up there for that.
Yeah. Good time. Yeah.
It is.
Very spiritual and just awesome to hear that.
I don't know, something about the setting.
Yeah.
And they just put you at ease, and it's a great experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Yeah. All right. So as we flip through the pages of Experience Tehachapi, 23-24 edition, what do we find?
I know we always do a story about the wild horses that we have here.
The Okies, the Oak
Yes.
Creeks.
And I kind of like what we did this time because, we always try to keep things different. We always try to, definitely have new photos, but do the story a little different this time. And this time we kind of just made like a scrapbook of photos. So we have photos of the horses that were adopted and a little caption about their owners and, what they're doing now with the horses. And that made me really happy because it's not like it's a stale story that'll never go old, but presenting it in a new way where people could just, hear about the after of roaming the hills of Tehachapi and all the cool things that they get to do now. I thought that was kind of a fun approach and got some great photos and information for that too.
They are incredibly smart and sensitive animals.
They are.
My wife owned one, and it was just her connection with this horse was amazing. It was a gelding, and she absolutely loved it. He loved her. It was just a cool bonding thing that you could see. And they're so smart that she was able to train it and use hand signals, as a part of the training, not, with a lead rope. She would be able to direct the horse to do different things using her hands. And it was just amazing how in tune they are with their people. They're very smart and sensitive. I think that's part of it's being in the wild. And they have to be very sensitive to, mountain lions and things that, predators that might be out there. And they're incredibly sensitive, but they tune into your energy.
Yeah, they do. And from the stories I've heard, they have good timing. When people go up for experiences or to see them, they tend to come back and give it a little show.
So years ago, about 2017, 18, I think, maybe 19, we hosted here. So the California Local Association for Economic Development they have a group of rural communities, and it's a rural exchange, and they wanted to do a rural exchange event. And so we offered to host it in Tehachapi. And so they came here from all over the state, and we hosted an event here in Tehachapi. And we started on Friday evening or Thursday evening, whatever it was, and we rented a charter bus, and we said, we're going to take everybody on a tour, and we're going to discuss multiple things about the Tehachapi region. And then we had Nikki Cummings, who at the time was running WWS. It was her company, and she was taking them through the wind turbine. So we go down Willow Springs, and we go near Oak Creek Road, and it was like you couldn't have timed it better. Here comes this stampede of wild horses down the hill, and it was like, oh, by the way, there's our wild horses. And everybody's like, did you cue this? I mean, the timing could not have been better as we got this charter bus full of folks from all over the state seeing this herd of wild horses stampeding down the mountain. It was amazing. And I'm like, yep, timed it perfectly.
Well, they know because people will go back for the tours to visit. And if they take bales of hay on trucks. So when they hear the engines, they think, it's going to be feeding time.
They're smart.
That fresh hay is going to be spread out, and that's usually a part of the tours.
There you go.
Spread out the hay, and then and usually there's a band of about 100 horses. I think that's about what they try to manage the herd to. And then they come, so they hear the engine, and it's like food.
It could have been more perfect. People are staring at these giant wind turbines, not, just never seen one up that close. And then the wild horses come running down amongst them. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, they're beautiful. They're worthy of being in every magazine. So I was excited to have more photos this time so we can actually see them.
Yeah, that's great.
All right. So as we turn the pages, what else do we find this edition? I'm liking to go back to that, the turning the pages, because you literally are turning the pages with me as I ask, and we're coming across these different stories, and you're recalling. I can see, Pat, when you're talking about the Norbertine sisters, you're recalling the memories of having these conversations and the interviews that you've done with them, and just to be able to share that. I know you do it in writing, but here this is like a different medium for you. To verbalize, what you do, and you internally, and you take it in, and then you write it. It's a different expression, but I can see you recalling these memories.
It's easier to write than it is to talk.
Well, I'm flipping through the digital pages on the loopnewspaper.com. You can get the e-edition of the magazine as well, and it flips. It's kind of fun. It flips back and forth like you would be flipping a page.
Does it have the sound effect too of the flip of the page when you do it?
I don't know.
It does if you make it yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just do a little. Yeah. I know we did have. I'd love for Pat to share a little bit about Art 2023 and also the rodeo, because it's big years for both.
Well,
and
particularly the rodeo, because it's 60 years of rodeo here in Tehachapi, and the one person who has been involved in it almost since the beginning is Dal Bunn, and he's had some health problems this year and so forth, but I really, really wanted to interview him. And I had lunch with him one afternoon over at Tehachapi, actually. He loves Thai food. But anyway, he's been involved since, well, I learned that the Tehachapi Rodeo began out in Golden Hills as kind of like a little horse contest on a weekend, and they used to get together and just play games, and mostly kids, and it didn't really formalize for a long time. No. And then they did form a Tehachapi Mountain Rodeo Association, and about that time they gained control of the property that they have now over by the 58 off of Denison, and of Dal and a lot of them that are still involved in the Rodeo Association all put in the fencing, the bleachers, they did everything. And then over the years, the city has helped with bleachers and helped with other things. But it's now become one of the top 35 rodeos in the state of California. So
we even have some old photos too of when they would, before it was formalized in might have been the 1920s, a shot of, and on the similar grounds where they're at now, because the rock pile is there, and they've been having a rodeo there. They used to have baseball games there as well. On July 4th, there'd be a baseball game in that same area right there, because it was kind of a big open field prior to the airport. And so they would have events, including the rodeos, because the rodeos usually started as there were just contests among cattle ranchers, and they'd put their best ranch hand against your best ranch hand, and it was just bragging rights. And that's how the whole sport started, with rough stock events and ropings, that sort of thing. So yeah, we've got some old photos of stuff happening even out there before, modern day rodeo took effect.
Yeah. It's the rodeo. It's one of those. It's part of that Western fabric of Tehachapi, and it's. I'm sure that conversation with Dal was really, really interesting.
It was fascinating. It was.
All right. So as we flip through the pages,
that's funny. Flipping through, it reminds me we have so many. Pat and John write the bulk of the stories, but it's so encouraging to me to see how many contributors we have, especially this year, because like I said, whether they just give us a photo that is from their backyard that just so perfectly illustrates Tehachapi,
right,
or they sent us their first moments in Tehachapi. I mean, this is really everyone else's voice more than ours, and that's what I was hoping for it to be. I wanted this to be the community's voice. That's what it should be. So thank you to everyone who sent photos and everything, because man, they really made it shine. And again, with Art 2023, we have these gorgeous photos of all these paintings that happened that just completely illustrate our community in the most beautiful way. It's one of those features, sometimes delays us a little bit getting the magazine out, because we don't want to miss it. We want it to be part of it, but summer events are harder to cover. So thank you, Pat.
Pat, what's that like for you to cover over the past few years?
Oh my goodness, it's been amazing. Some of the artists I knew or knew of, and some are new to me, and some have become friends over the last 3 or 4 years that we've been doing it. But actually, we try to do something different every year. The artists we attract are from all over the country, and we have picked up the sponsorship of 2 magazines, American Art Collector and Western Art Collector, who help us bring in. They write a really nice story about us a couple of months before the show. And the artists come out here, and we try to give them a different experience every year. They paint plein air, which means they go out into the
environment
and bring their easels and paint. And then they go home, finish the work, and it's their finished work is juried into our show. And this year we added a trip out to the Milano Ranch, which is a working cattle ranch out in Stallion Springs, and they had the best time. We hired a couple of old guys that were from Disney, to kind of put a little bit of the old feel to there's a old stagecoach Pueblo on the ranch. And they would sit there on the porch, just rocking away all day. And it was really a fun event. So that was something new for them. We take them out to see the wild horses every year. They last year they went up to the top of Cummings Mountain. And so we get a variety of experiences committed to canvas. And we had, I'm not sure, well over 100 paintings this year. And we sold amazing number of paintings for sure. I think over the weekend we sold over $100,000 worth of paintings.
Wow.
Yeah. That'd be an interesting story too on the the Milano Ranch. I mean, previously owned by Jack Palance, the actor, and for people that might not know, it was Curly from City Slickers. That was he it was funny. You'd see him, growing up, you'd see him on, in something like City Slickers, and you see him getting gas at Mobile, in Tehachapi, like, oh, there's Jack Palance, and he lived out there. And then, so I think a lot of that stuff, he, came from him, and Mark, purchased it, and then the ranch is all that stuff too. So that'd be kind of a cool history story as well in the future. Just in case you need more assignments to hand out. Juliana,
do you want to write that one?
No,
too?
I do not. I'm good. I'm sticking to what I know. But I bet you John Hammond might have some insight on that.
You got that. You got the Chuck Connors place in Bear Valley. Yep. There's a lot of interesting tales to be told.
Yep.
So some of these properties.
That's why we keep doing this every year. We can't get to them all in one magazine. So
yeah.
Well, so I know that you mentioned that you guys already have the theme for 24-25. What is it?
Good. That was nice.
He asked it very quickly, like he thought he'd catch you. Like,
I know.
If I ask it fast, she'll answer fast.
I'm on to you guys. No, I will not give you the theme. However, you'll like it. It'll be great. And there's going to be a lot of photos again, and old photos and new photos and more community voices. So
yes,
it's going to be a good one. And, centerfold story
I
by
got the
Corey.
centerfold.
Yeah.
I had the
There we
centerfold.
go.
That's
Football.
amazing. Maybe even too, there's another story idea. Again, I'm not writing this one, but we just completed the the refurbishment of the water tower. We're waiting for the signs to come back from to put the historic downtown Tehachapi signs back on it. But there's a potential story there as well. It's about the third iteration of the water tower. We've had 3 different ones up there, and that one's the last one standing. And anyway, that would be why it was there, railroad steam, and that kind of thing. So anyway, I was explaining to Key not too long ago too the term jerkwater, which was a railroad term because places like Tehachapi, we weren't a jerkwater town because we had a tower to refill the steam engines. However, if you stopped in a smaller town that didn't have a water tower, they had to pull water from nearby creeks to put in the engines, and you had to jerk the water to the train, so they referred to them as jerkwater towns. So we were not a jerkwater town. I read that somewhere.
Could be the headline Tehachapi colon,
not a jerkwater town, thanks to the water tower.
We're getting closer and closer to that Costello-it, just like Ham
Yeah,
did. He said it was only football, but no.
Right.
Everything I learned, I read from John.
Yeah.
So.
I would very quickly just like to thank our designer. We have a new designer this time, Mimi Whitney. She's incredible. I've known her since I was 5 years old, along with John Hammond, because I met them at the Tehachapi News. She was doing design for the Tehachapi News back then, and went to high school with my brother. So she feels like family, and it was really fun to be able to do this with her and, bug her at midnight with my ideas and.
Well, let's talk about that. Once you get once all the stories have come in, what's the process like for you? And you said you had extra content, and John throws you a bonus story that you had to go with. And I mean, that there's stuff that falls on the editing room floor, right?
Right.
So now, do you hold on to those and say, okay, maybe we can put a little breath into this one for the next or something else that you can use it for?
Right, depending on what it is and how timely it is. If it's timely, we always get it in the loop, so it doesn't go to waste.
Okay.
It'll be in an upcoming issue. But I always have a few ideas, and I have a lot more after today, but a few stories started for the next magazine too. So that helps. And yeah, getting bonus stories from John at the last minute just means we have even more content for next time. So that's always a good thing. And for the production cycle, pretty much once I finish a story, I send it to Mimi and she starts to work. It's hard on her end because she doesn't really know everything she's going to have. I do my best to send a story budget, but that always changes. There's no way to get around that. So she'll do what she can and do her design, which are beautiful. We always kind of talk about a general look or theme to flow throughout the paper, especially with the theme in mind. But yeah, she's just kind of always waiting to see what new stories I'm going to add, and it's probably incredibly stressful for her, more than I want to tell myself. But she's a trooper, and she did great work this year.
Well, I know the layout and flow just is stellar each year, and I wonder how many iterations you have to go through to get it to that final point. It's just that constantly, as a story comes through, you're kind of working them back, massaging things back and forth.
Yeah, and depending on how many pages we have, we do have to cut stuff back. We do have to take out the great photo because there's so many great photos. So one or two will have to leave. But that's the great thing about working with a designer like Mimi, because she's very flexible. She's very adaptable, and we can make changes at the last minute, which we gave her too many, and poor thing, she's still recovering. But she made it beautiful and was willing to, expand a photo here and there if I thought that should be a full page photo, or, give more room to the story and take out whatever else is in the way. And it's nice. It takes constant communication, a little bit of nagging, but she's a sweetheart, so it worked out.
That's awesome.
Now, Pat, so you're covering, and you're writing for, every 2 weeks. You're constantly got stuff for the newspaper. So this goes above and beyond. So how do you kind of fit that into your timeline? Is it, you're early on, get the assignments, and you try and, pace the time together, or do you kind of what's your process with this?
This is the moment she gets to tell on me and all my angry emails at her.
I tend to leave things till the last minute.
No, you're not.
At least as far as the writing is.
As any good writer does, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah,
You're much better when you're like lock yourself in a chair and I'm not moving until I'm finished. Yes.
I do the interviews, and theoretically you should sit down and start writing immediately, but no, I have a tendency to because I'm writing for the paper as well. Mm-hmm. I'll get the interviews done, and then as the deadline gets a little closer, then I try and squeeze them in.
So when she
Because we
says
overwork her a little bit. She's doing stuff for every publication, but she's a great writer and dependable. So she's not one I have to harp on. I don't send her the angry emails about where's your story? It was due last week. I know it's coming.
I had a journalism professor years ago talk about he had somebody similar situation but his sort of method was he would have a story and he knew he was getting close to the deadline, and so he would drink a bunch of water and then he would sit down in the chair and he would not leave until the story was done, no matter how bad he had to use the restroom. It was motivation for him to focus and knock it out. And that was his method for production, was to do that in order to ensure he got it done on deadline.
That's creative. I have not heard that one before.
I couldn't do that.
Pat, we have a new method next year.
Yeah. If I hit a roadblock, I'll just get up and walk away for a while. Yeah. And when I come back, usually then it'll flow again. But yes.
So when Pat's talking about waiting to the last minute, how last minute is she?
Not as last minute as some.
Oh, there you
Okay.
go.
I'll say that.
And you're calling them some. You
Well,
don't
she
want to call
wasn't at
them
stray leaves all the time.
That's
She'd be a
well-
little quicker.
We're going to have a little writer's table in the corner for you, Pat.
Yes, exactly.
No, I know I can always count on her, and they'll come in, and they'll be great. So I don't have to do much to them once they get to me. That's a good thing.
Outstanding. So as we kind of put a bow on this, where can we find Experience Tehachapi
Where
magazine?
can't you find it, actually?
Yeah.
'Cause
That's
I think
a better
it's
question.
pretty much everywhere.
I think it's everywhere. I know. I see Claudia
try.
driving around. I saw it today, dropping off issues and restacking all the stands. We definitely have it outside the Loop office. I know we have it here at City Hall. We have it at the Visitor Center.
Right.
I think most of the advertisers, if not all, have a stand in their business. I know anywhere that has a card or a brochure program
That's
is going to
right.
have them too.
It's part of the tourism brochure racks that are around town. So if they're in all the hotels, definitely at the visitor center, at the depot, the museums,
Yeah, I
us
know.
of course, but
Yeah, I know the visitor center gets hit pretty hard. They're always
But it's a
restocking,
great
but-
one though, because working the visitor center, you know about these things, but it's hard to sometimes explain them. Well, if they're in the magazine, you can say, "Oh, by the way, here's more about the Norbertine,
Right.
that kind of stuff." So it helps to kind of have pictures and then just an explanation about what it really is, and then people appreciate the history, and then sometimes they want to go look at it more.
Right. Well, and we have maps and we have an antique guide. It's a one-stop shop for everything you want to do on the weekend in
Very cool.
Tehachapi.
Well, let's tell everyone how much it costs.
it is for free
What?
every place. We
What?
do not charge
Free.
for this magazine.
But support all the fine advertisers that
Yes.
So all of our small businesses step up so that way
Yes.
we can publish this, make it free to the public.
Yep.
Tell all the stories of Tehachapi, and whether you're a visitor, you're local, longtime resident, or a newbie, you can experience Tehachapi through your magazine.
Exactly. And we do have proof that people pick this up as a visitor's guide too, even though we so badly want to make the community happy with it too. But we get letters from people each time, I think, saying, I was just driving through Tehachapi, found your magazine, it's amazing. If I ever can move to Tehachapi, I want to. So this is reaching visitors and, locals alike.
Nice.
Well, every weekend, as I'm walking around town, people will come up and say, "This is the best of all the ones you've done." But they said that last year too.
Great. That's exactly what you want. It means you're doing it right.
Yeah,
Every year
right.
bigger and better, and you're accomplishing that.
no
so
pressure.
congratulations. Yeah, no pressure for this mystery theme that Juliana has for next year.
I know
She
that-
won't tell us
I
about.
will tell you, it's you're going to like it. It's a good one.
Maybe that's the theme. You're gonna like it.
You're
Yeah.
gonna
Experience Tehachapi.
I don't
You're gonna
know
like
either.
it.
She hasn't told
new
any of us
catchphrase.
yet.
She has the scoop. All right. We thought we could just shock ass. Ain't gonna happen. Juliana says,
Yeah.
not gonna happen. I know that I did put together some recruitment packages when we were recruiting new police officers, and that made its way into the package to
Oh,
help
that's great.
help
you.
attract potential police officers, but for their families. It's one thing when we look at recruitment for people in our area, but it's their families too. And when they get to see what they experience here,
Right.
you set the tone very well and tell the story of Tehachapi. And it is a marketing tool for us, as we talk to, whether it's Straddle Launch or Rio Tinto, and we talk to Edwards Air Force Base, and they talk about the recruitment of engineers. One of the big things is the families and making sure the families have a quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what Experience Tehachapi magazine does. It talks about our quality of life.
Yeah.
Right.
And this magazine, probably, you're unaware, it's probably saved tons of marriages from people that move and go to work at, they get called from back east to come here, renewables, Rio Tinto, and, the spaceport, and their wives, they get to Mojave and they're like, "Where have you moved me?" And then they slide this magazine across the table and they're like, "That's where we're going to go and find our home and we'll commute." So you probably saved some families from,
I'm just happy to serve.
There is a story that when I was working at the visitor center a couple of weeks ago, it was getting close to the end of the day, and this kid comes in and he says, "Can you help me?" He says, "I need to present a case for my girlfriend to move here." He had arrived at Edwards Air Force Base 3 days
There you
before.
go.
And he said, "I cannot ask her to live in Rosamond. She lives in Aspen, Colorado."
Oh, no.
So I spent about an hour and a half with him, loaded him up with stuff, sent him up to see the Norbertines, and gave him, and he needed to buy a bottle of wine. So I said, "Okay, if you start now, you'll just about have enough time to go visit the Norbertines. And if there's time left over, you can probably hit Dorner Vineyard on the way back." And that's exactly what he did.
There you go. Tehachapi wine, divine intervention, and pat duty.
That's right.
All saved it.
Love
That's the
that.
trifecta of Tehachapi.
Actually, he came back to visit us at our booth at Apple Festival last
nice.
weekend.
Nice.
And he was headed back up to the Norbertines. So.
Oh, there you go. See,
Very good.
that's fantastic.
Very cool. So is there anything that we haven't talked about that, like maybe next year's theme that you haven't shared yet?
Yeah, really good try. I like your effort. I promise you'll like it. It's gonna be great.
Okay.
Yeah. You're gonna love it.
You're gonna love it. No, I think this covers it for this magazine, and yeah, I'm excited to keep you on the edge of your seat for the next one.
All right. See, and then with this one, Juliana also postponed the original date of the podcast. She pushed it back on us. So not only does she tease what's coming up,
I do.
and then we have this date set and we're ready, and then she goes, "Oh, let's push that back a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We're just gonna gently push it back a couple of
Just
weeks."
a little.
Y'all can hang on a little longer. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're looking for an early release on this next year's edition.
Yes.
That you can tell us.
Yes.
Cool.
Okay. So maybe in September, early fall. Is that what you're?
Early fall. Early fall is a
Okay.
safe bet,
Okay.
Nice.
and you're gonna love it.
All right. It still throw you the look. It's like, come on.
That's
on.
right.
No, not going to happen.
no.
We're not going to crack her today.
Not today.
All right. So anything in closing you guys want to share?
No, I just thank you to the community. I mean, this is your voice. This is your story, your magazine. So, and thank you guys for having us again.
Yeah, thank you guys for your work. This is great. I know you kind of started this as an idea, and it's been an annual tradition now. So keep it up, and thanks for all you do. It's great.
Yeah. Pat, anything in closing?
No, just I think we're just excited about doing this every year. So, and I have no idea what I'm going to be doing next year.
I have a few.
It doesn't matter. She's going to wait till last minute anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Are you going to give Pat earlier deadlines? So that
No, it's okay. I trust her.
Yeah.
It'll be all right.
Yeah,
Thank
she
you.
comes through in the clutch. It's all right.
Yeah, she's
All right.
good.
Well, Pat Duty, Juliana Crisali Cronky, thank you so much. We appreciate the time you've spent with us and sharing Experience Tehachapi magazine, the 23-24 edition. And we look forward to really diving in and getting that taste of Tehachapi. And I know it's just like I said, it's something that we use as a recruitment tool, but it's something that we as residents enjoy as well.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, folks, if you have a question based on today's conversation, send it to us at media@tehachapicityhall.com. We'll make sure that we answer that, or we'll forward it along to Juliana or Pat or Corey if you want to Costello it. You want that? We'll go ahead and do
It better
that.
be a softball question. I'm telling you right now.
But we appreciate the time you spend with us here on Tehachapod, and we'll catch you again soon.
Tehachapod is a conversation about Tehachapi, featuring the community members who make this such a special place to call home. If you have a question or a thought you'd like to share, email media@tehachapicityhall.com. Thank you to Gary Mazzola for sharing his song, This is Tehachapi.